It was 1 year ago tomorrow, June 3rd, 2020, when I announced our plans for an independent top-to-bottom review of the Louisville Metro Police Department. It was, of course, an extremely challenging time. We were just a few months into a pandemic. We'd witnessed the start of protests for racial justice and equity in our city and the nation in the wake of the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and too many others. And we'd begun a national search for a new police chief after seeing more clearly than ever the trust gap between our police officers and the communities that they're sworn to serve and protect. All of this together clearly, to me, called for a change. We needed an independent, comprehensive review of the policies, procedures, and structure of our police department to ensure it aligned with the goals and values of our community. 1 month after that, we announced Hillard Heinz, one of the nation's leading public safety consulting firms and drivers of 21st century policing, would do the review for us. And in January of this year, after hours of hearing directly and in surveys from Metro Council, from organizations and individuals representing our diverse city, and from LMPD, Hillard Heinz shared their findings. It was an unflinching look, that's what we wanted, at what was working and what was not. It clearly outlined the pain in our community as a whole and also within LMPD. It was challenging, but we knew it would be, and that's what we needed. Audits expose gaps and guide improvement, and that's why we embraced the Hillard Heinz review, just as we have embraced all of the audits that I've ordered throughout my administration because they make us better. And we're embracing the currently ongoing patterns and practices review by the Department of Justice as well. While we're focused on gaps and weaknesses, it's also important to note that the Hillard Heinz report found LMPD in line with national best practices in many areas, including its de-escalation training and use of force continuum. And it highlighted as promising the work we're doing to bring community stakeholders and LMPD together for frank conversations about building community trust, about race, about discrimination. You see that in our reimagining public safety work. You'll continue to see funding for that effort in my budget that I've already proposed that's starting July 1st for FY22, and that's a big part of our work to address the lack of trust that the report said stems from, quote, generations of problematic relations with LMPD and the community. So embracing these challenges is what strong organizations do, and it's a necessary first step toward finding solutions and reaching our goal of having the absolute best police department in the nation. And you've heard me say many times that I believe policing is an inflection point in America and certainly in our city as well, and we aim to be a model for showing what the new best practices look like. Our citizens deserve nothing less. The report's authors from Hillard Heinz were optimistic that we can get there with, as they said, a, quote, renewed commitment and, quote, holistic follow-through from LMPD and city leaders, as well as the community's openness to the department, demonstrating a willingness to improve. And that's a really critical point. To be successful, obviously the police work must be done in collaboration with our citizens, and that naturally is what builds trust. Transparency is another critical piece. Chief Shields agrees that it's important that the community holds us accountable to making the changes recommended by Hillard Heinz. I would say agrees is probably a soft word. She's adamant on that, and the community should receive regular reports on our progress. So we're here today to provide the first of those reports. So I'd like to invite Chief Shields up now to share where we are and where we're going and how you can stay up to date on our work with Hillard Heinz. Chief?
All right, thank you. Good morning and thank you. So when Hillard Heinz came out with their report, what they did is they had initially some key findings. They're very broad. And off of the findings, they developed 12 key domains. And under each domain were specific recommendations. And so what we wanted to do was have a regular report out, probably moving forward now, we'll attempt to do it quarterly. Initially, we were held up because we've just been trying to develop a dashboard so that the public can track our progress. And we have the dashboard done, and we've tried to also squeeze this in with budget sessions with the city council so that we can also have direct communication with council on this. What we also recognize is this dashboard will continue to evolve. We're looking for what the community wants to see that they may not be seeing. So please, this is by no means absolute, but it's just important for us to be sharing real time what we've accomplished. When you look at the dashboard, you find 4 key areas. So for every recommendation, there's 4 areas that recommendation may be sitting. Under review, that means that we're assessing the implementation and or the feasibility of it even being accomplished. Very small fragment of the findings fall within that area. Planning and development, that's where we're looking at the processes to use to figure out how we can apply it within LMPD. What's the best way to accomplish this? In process, this is where you're going to find the bulk of the recommendations sitting idle for a period of time. What that means is the plan is in motion, the recommendation is in motion, but we're not going to move it out of there until we have had an opportunity to truly monitor whether or not we are making changes and progress in this area through auditing, through talking to employees, through hearing from the community. What I don't want us to do is to just move us into the complete stage to say we've met what Hilliard-Hines recommended. We need to change. And this report will be of no use unless we really commit to driving change and making change. Initially, you're going to see a small number of items considered complete. Those were easy wins, literally changing one word in a policy. So there's nothing, that's why you saw them get completed so quickly. What for me do I see as the challenge? I think that the challenge is figuring out how to accomplish what we know we need to do. Let me give you an example. We know that we need to energize in the area of de-escalation. And for employees to be stronger at de-escalation, they have to have more confidence in their presence. They need to be less reliant on tools. They need to have stronger communication skills, and they need to have more confidence in their ability to just manage the situation physically. This is not unique to LMPD. It's been an area that all departments across America have failed to invest in properly. We have on our department, we're fortunate, we have a jiu-jitsu instructor who is world-renowned. That is one of the few martial arts that does not teach chokeholds, and it also encompasses de-escalation into the training. So we know we want our employees to be more engaged here, and we want them to be better at this so they have an understanding of how to de-escalate and have confidence when they approach whatever situation they're facing. How do you build in that training when you are short officers? How do you accommodate this? Because like anything, it's a perishable skill, and you're only as good at it as much as you can dedicate your time to it. So for us, it's figuring out, okay, how do we accomplish this so we're actually successful in this area? Because the Hilliard-Hines report will tie directly into what the Department of Justice is looking at, and that is not checking the boxes. It's prolonged change, prolonged periods of time where you can show that you have different outcomes, prolonged periods of time where you don't have incidents that are questionable, where you're doing third-party independent surveys and the community actually, they feel and they respond in a manner that's indicative of change. The traffic stops, for instance, we have to be looking real-time at traffic stop data and arrest data. My commanders need to see what their employees are doing. What are the demographics of the motorists that they're stopping or the individuals they're arresting? So we're working to get these dashboards built. So we know for many of these things what we need to do to make change and be successful in this area, but we're also realistic about the implementation, and it's not going to happen overnight, and so we're just going to keep chipping away at it, but we're committed to getting it right. So with that, Mayor, thank you.
right, we'll take questions in a minute, but to just say, obviously Hilliard Heinz is an important part of everything that we're doing right now in terms of improvement at LMPD and throughout the city and throughout city government as well, because it's this whole of government and whole of community approach that's really required to execute public safety for us. So the Hilliard Heinz report did show the challenges within LMPD, and as the chief outlined, we're dealing with those challenges. We're going to continue to do so, and we're going to continue to report on those so that, and have them online so everybody can check it out and give us any type of comments that they want. Chief did emphasize that this is a work in progress. As you all know, when you're working on anything, it's like, well, let's perfect it a little bit more. We want to go ahead and get it out so we could get comments on improvement as well. But I want to thank LMPD for getting to this point with the dashboard as well. And let's also keep in mind that reimagining public safety requires broader reform. It's not just LMPD, throughout our city and throughout our nation as well. And the analogy that people are starting to understand about public safety is kind of like the public health analogy. It's just far too big for any one entity to be responsible for, and it's something that we all have a role in creating. And that's why we're emphasizing with the budget this year that it's really a system that's required to effectively reimagine what public safety is. You know, so often people are going to say, what are the police going to do about this? Public safety is about a lot more than the police department. Clearly, they play a very important role in the enforcement of laws and constitutional policing. But when you think about creating a whole safe city approach, it's a system. And in our budget, we're emphasizing it includes 6 pillars. The first one being community mobilization, and then the second being investments in intervention. The next is prevention. The fourth element, the pillar, is law enforcement, what we're talking about here today. The fifth is organizational change, like implementing things like the Civilian Review Board. And then the last is reentry. How do we make sure people exiting the jail or prison come back into a community, have housing, have a job, get started back on the right path? So it's that whole system that we are funding more aggressively in our budget, quadrupling the amount of money that's gone into that compared to prior years. So working on all those pieces together is what leads us to, I think, real public safety and racial justice and equity within our community. So we're looking forward to that work and look forward to everybody being involved with it. So with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Chief, I'm sure we'll all go back and look at this when we get back to our newsrooms, but can you give us some examples of what is completed and what has actually already changed as a result of the
So the completed piece, I wouldn't get too enamored with it. It literally, there were several recommendations that were change a word in a policy. And then there was one recommendation that ensure that all newly promoted sergeants go through what's called our stripes course, already occurring. So it was low-hanging fruit, but they're not indicative of the quality change that we're aspiring for.
Is there something, Chief, that's at the very top of the list among all of these things that you guys would like to get completed maybe before everything else?
And that's where I would say to you that I'm not looking to check completed, because, listen, if we're really making change, that's not going to be the judge of it. The judge of it will be a prolonged period of time where we show that we're doing things differently. So what I need to see and understand, we can put in policy, we can put in training, but until I see the data over a prolonged period of time where we're auditing it. So let's say it's the use of force data, reporting use of force. I want to see that it's documented properly. I want the body-worn camera watch to see that it aligns with the report. I want to see that if there's an infraction, that it was handled responsibly. So it's a process, and to rush it will not move this department where it needs to go. And I think you're going to see that with the DOJ. The DOJ is going to be looking for content, and they're going to be looking for a true commitment to change. And it's not, you don't turn a vessel on a 90-degree angle. And we have to get this right. We have to get this right.
Could you give us an update on the investigation into Major Aubrey's use of racial epithets and training, and how does that affect the department's ability to implement
Well, so what I'll say is Major Gregory has had a stellar career with this department and was shot last year during the protests and came to work the next day. So, yes, he's made a critical error in judgment, but it by no means defines his body of work. And that's what I'll say insofar as he is concerned. As to the bias-free policing, it's no different than bias-free workplaces. It is in every corner of of society and in your respective workplaces and mine. People bring with them baggage. They bring with them inherent biases that they've possessed for many, many years. And we as an employer have to do everything that we can to get them on the path where they're policing in a manner that these biases do not influence their decision making. My workplace is no different than yours. It's just much more public, and we have far more authority, which is why we have to take it so seriously. But at the end of the day, what I am obligated to do and committed to do is ensure that our officers are not only the best trained in the country, but they're applying their training in a manner consistently across every neighborhood in this city and county.
Everybody in this room knows Major Gregory, and everybody here respects him, but when something like that gets out, doesn't it hurt community trust? Doesn't it affect things you're trying to do?
Well, certainly, it's not what you want. I think, though, what this community is looking for, based on the feedback I received in the limited time I've been here, is how do we respond to it? How do I respond to it? And so what I will say to you is that's where I think you'll start to see change, is there will be a real-time addressing of these issues. And so, you know, and it's going to take time. I think that when you're talking about communities, especially communities of color that have been on the receiving end of police misconduct in the United States for decades, it's not going to happen overnight. And my commitment is that this department is committed to getting it right and holding those individuals accountable who may come up short.
So my final question on that then, was there a real-time addressing of Major Aubrey's comments?
Yes, and it'll be made public down the road.
Chief, what kind of a challenge is it for you to, implement these changes and reform the department while also trying to handle all the violent crime we have in our city?
Well, they go hand in hand, so I think you're spot on. When I came in and I saw the violent crime, there was the part of me that wanted to just implement what I knew worked and hit it head on, hit it fast, hit it hard, because the shootings and the homicide, the numbers are staggering and grossly unacceptable. That being said, what was clear to me was how business had been done in the past. The process was not appropriate. And it's more important to me that we are doing policing, in particular self-initiated policing, in a manner that is consistent with policy and, quite frankly, with constitutional law. And so it's not been a straightforward process. I've come in and there's a department where individuals have lost some level of confidence in their ability to police, in whether or not the community wants them to police. I've got to instruct them how to do it in a manner that will withstand scrutiny. And so it's been a process. That being said, this department, from day one, I've encountered officers who are fully engaged, want to work, do not like the narrative surrounding the crime in this city, do not think it's acceptable. And so it's just also figuring out a way of what operationally do we do differently to ensure that we are arresting those individuals who are driving violent crime. And it's a strong department. It's got great people. What I would say, though, and you see this in many agencies, is we can become so focused on the outcome, we bypass the process. And if the process is incorrect, that's when you get the violations.
This might dovetail off of that a little bit. This report found that you have 75% of officers who would leave the department if they could right now, or when the report was done, when the surveys were taken. What are you doing right now for retention and morale?
So what I'd say to you, I think if you went across America, particularly to urban areas in August, as this report was, and asked police if they wanted to leave, it would have been markedly high in every city, unfortunately. And so I think it's indicative of a much greater problem, and that is people don't want to enter into the profession of policing right now. We have to rebrand ourselves. We've made a number of serious missteps, high-profile missteps, that have made the profession very unappealing. So my job is to rebrand how we do business here, to ensure that we are appealing to the few applicants that are out there, to ensure that we're recruiting in those areas where we have the greatest likelihood of getting quality applicants, and to continue to fight for the benefits of the officers.
The report also notes
on
that,
this, Chief, on the dashboard, is this something that every single time one of those numbers moves back and forth, it goes through you, or is this kind of broken down within the department? Just kind of logistically, how does that dashboard work?
So we have a central repository, a team that looks at this to ensure not so much that, not to say it's okay or not, but actually if we agree it's being accomplished. And so we've kicked a lot back because, again, there's a tendency, I think, to want to get stuff done as opposed to get it done properly. So yes, you will see that before anything is posted, and we plan to update quarterly, that we're looking at it. I'm looking at it with my executive command to see, are we really accomplishing this? Has the change really occurred? Yes.
the report also notes that IA is more than just an internal matter, it affects the community, represents a major community trust issue. But since officer-involved shootings have been moved to Kentucky State Police, we don't get any updates, we don't get any video. It used to be, the day after an officer-involved shooting, you at least got some kind of information about that. Now, there's been at least 4 officer-involved shootings, and we have little to no information about any of them. Is it time to revisit that memorandum of understanding with KSP or do something differently?
Well, what I'll say is I was surprised when I came here to find out that the body-worn camera video was released typically the day after. That's generally not the norm, largely because you've got to make sure you're not compromising the potential criminal investigation, whether it's against the individual who was shot or against the officer. So I think the expectation here maybe had been set in a space that really isn't widely embraced. That being said, I'm all for releasing body-worn camera, releasing it sooner than later. And I think it's something we have to weigh. It went to KSP. This is not uncommon that agencies are outsourcing who does their investigations, because when they do it themselves, there's the belief that they won't do it fairly and impartially. So it's a trade-off. I'm grateful for the support that KSP has afforded us. And they know that I would like everything released as soon as we possibly can. But I can't have it both ways. I can't ask them to do the investigation and then demand that they release it. So, if the public decides, well, we'd rather have the body-worn camera footage and LMPD handling the investigation, then that's something we'll listen to. But that clearly was not the space this department was in when the decision was made to provide it to them.
One last thing, what are you doing to
Yeah.
One last comment on that, Mark, is, we've been pushing in Frankfurt for potentially an independent review agency put in place to investigate all officer-involved shootings within the Commonwealth. So we're fully aware of this tension between the desire to have the body camera released and independence. And as Chief said, we just can't have it both ways right now, but we're trying to advocate for a third way that might be better.
One last thing. What is being done to speed up internal investigations? That was one thing that was, the department got hit pretty hard on in this report, was that those investigations will just sit, and there's no resolution for the officer or the person who may have made a complaint.
I would agree. The system was broken. And so we're doing a number of things. The first is we're automating the files so that it's not a paper file that you're trying to track down. And this way you can actually, once it's fully automated, or about 85% there, we'll be able to see real time where the file is sitting. Because when we looked at the data, what we saw was actually leaving PSU in a reasonable amount of time. It was the review process with the supervisors, and in particular the chief's office, where they were getting backlogged. I have a couple of attorneys on staff, new attorneys, and they're tasked with reviewing the files to ensure that they're done efficiently and in compliance with law. And we're also instituting a process whereby the employee supervisor has to actually weigh in on the file, because that is supervision, and supervisory development does not come by not requiring individuals who are in a position of oversight to just have no input. So there's a number of things that we're doing. I'm not happy with the timeline yet. I also have been hampered by the merit board process. It's very, it's not good when you have folks that want to go to the merit board because they know the fact that it's going to get drawn out for such a prolonged period of time. The hearing is unappealing to me because I'm trying to get these files moving. So here, reduce the discipline. I mean, that's not good for anybody. So I think there's a real problem with how that operates, quite honestly. I mean, I shouldn't have a week trial on something that's minor. Just shouldn't. So I think there's a larger issue there that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get my hands around, because I'm not sure how much of it is mandated by state law. But at least internally, I'm going to handle and ensure that we're expediting those areas that we can.